Muy buenas tardes a todos y bienvenidos a la plataforma de ciencia virtual del EcoExploratorio, Museo de Ciencias de Puerto Rico. Durante esta semana estamos celebrando la edición BioInnovation Week junto a Corteva Agriscience. Mi nombre es Mary Manso, soy la gerente de eventos comunitarios del EcoExploratorio y seré su moderadora durante el día de hoy. Para el día de hoy en la charla tenemos el nombre Farming for Future, Modern Sustainable Agriculture for Puerto Rico. Sería el futuro de la siembra, una agricultura sustentable y moderna para Puerto Rico. Para todos los que se conectan a través de Zoom y la plataforma de lo que es Facebook Live, bienvenidos. Si se encuentra por el área de Zoom, puede hacer sus dudas o preguntas a través del Question and Answer o a través del chat. Si se encuentra por el área de Facebook Live, puede dejar sus preguntas a través de los comentarios. Todas las preguntas las estaremos contestando al finalizar la charla. Toda la charla durante el día de hoy, en esta tarde, será en inglés. De tener algún inconveniente, recuerde que si se encuentra a través del área de Zoom, puede activar la Live Transcript o lo que serían los subtítulos en inglés. Sus preguntas las puede realizar en español o en inglés y cualquiera de las dos serán, ¿verdad?, dirigidas al doctor Aluk. Ahora sí, sin más preámbulos, les presento al doctor Aluk Arum. Él es del USDA, la Universidad Interamericana de Puerto Rico. El doctor Aluk Arum también es parte de IKICA de la Garza Science Fellow. Es el principal investigador de NSF HSI STEM y el principal investigador de USDA STEM. También es un profesor asociado de biotecnología de la Universidad Interamericana de Puerto Rico. Así que sin más preámbulos, los dejo con el doctor Aluk Arum. Doctor, puede subir su presentación. Hi, Dr.
Muchas
Aluk.
gracias.
You can... Nada.
Hi, buenas tardes a todos. That is the Spanish I know for the moment. I will be talking to you about the research that we do in our university campus. Let me just bring my presentation for a second. Okay. So I hope you can see the presentation.
Yes.
Okay, so today I'm going to be talking to you about why agriculture is so important and what are the modern techniques and technologies we have that we can implement to raise awareness and interest in agriculture. So before I go too much into detail of agriculture, the first thing I want to tell you is that the world has a serious problem. And that problem is that we do not have enough food. We get 3 meals during the day and we think that we might have enough food, but you will be amazed to know that approximately 250 to 500,000 children per year become blind and half of them die within 1 year. And this data is coming from World Health Organization from 2019. And it is more interesting to know the reason of these death and blindness. And the primary reason is the lack of vitamin A, which is an essential vitamin that is needed for the growth and development of a child. So this tells you that we have a real problem. And this problem exists because we love to eat, but we hate to produce. I mean, if all the participants who are here, if I do a vote of the fact that how many of you are actually growing something in your farm, in your garden, in your terrace, I don't think many of you would be able to give me a positive answer. So that's why the food is really essential, and we love to eat, but then we don't hate to produce. And here on this slide, you can see some of the food or the food items that you might be eating on a daily basis. But I think most of us do not eat the food that is shown here on the slide on a daily basis. And I will tell you through the course of my presentation why eating these food products that you see on the screen is really important. So as I was showing you a data from WHO in 2019, that there is a severe crisis of vitamin A deficiency. When you look at the Global Nutrition Report that is coming from 2020, you find that 1 in 9 people in the world are hungry and malnourished. Especially if you look at the graphics of the children, then 1 in 4 children under the age of 4 are stunted physically or mentally or economically. And this is primarily because the kind of nutrition that is being given or that is being accessible to those children. And then it's very interesting data which shows that the problem of the food insecurity can give rise to a lot of problems. Like if you can see the chart here. So if you have a family and if there is a food insecurity in your family, then that is going to give rise certainly to a lot of stresses, okay? And that stress will lead to a lot of chronic disease, and that increase in the chronic disease in the family can then lead to the increase in expenditure related to the health, for example, okay? So it's a vicious circle. So we really need to find a solution as to how we can contribute to fixing the food insecurity that exists in the world. But the fact is that since the world population is exploding, and you can see here on the graph on the left-hand side that the world population is expected to reach close to 8.5 billion in 2050. But then we do not have enough amount of production that is going to match the ever-increasing population that we will have in 2050. So what can we do about it? Well, we have a lot of different resources and different strategies that we can use in order to feed the world. So one of the things that I would like to bring your attention to is the fact that we have so many plant species on Earth. So for example, to give you a statistics, there are 250,000 plant species that are known so far. And what is exciting is that out of these 250,000, 80,000 of them are edible. But then only 150 of them are cultivated on a large scale. And out of these 150, only 30 plant species provide 95% of the total calorie values. And even out of these 30 plants, when you see, only 4 plants, which is rice, wheat, maize, and potato, they contribute to the 60 to 70% of the total calorie need of an individual. And then here I would like to ask a question. Out of these 4 plants, how many of these 4 plants are being cultivated in Puerto Rico on a commercial scale? To the best of my knowledge, answer would be none of them, right? So here we have an opportunity that we can look onto those plants which are edible, but still haven't been explored for commercial purposes. In addition to that, we have a real problem, and that problem is that in order to feed the world, you need access to farming land. And here is the data from Department of Agriculture in USA. And this is specifically is the data for Puerto Rico. And if you see the data, you would be amazed to know that over the last 20, 30 years, the amount of the land that was used for farming has decreased by over 50%. So in 1998, for example, in Puerto Rico, there were around 19,951 farms producing agricultural products. And if when you compare it with 2018, you only have 8,230. So this reduction in the number of farms is definitely going to be a challenging problem in terms of the production of the agricultural commodities. So how can we fix this problem? Well, there are several things that we can do. And to the best of my knowledge, I think these are 4 primary things that can help us to ensure a food security in the near future. So the first thing that we need to do is to reduce our food waste, right? We produce a lot of food waste. The second thing, and I will be going in detail of each of these sections. The second thing that we need to do, and which we have been constantly doing over the last 30, 40, 50 years, is to enhance the traits of the agricultural product, or at least crops or plants that give us those products. The third thing is that we should increase our research efforts on crops that are limited to a particular region. And those crops are often known as orphan crops. And then fourth, we can integrate the latest technology that is available to us in the 21st century, and we can try to do agriculture with modern technique. So when you're doing agriculture with modern techniques, especially when you're utilizing techniques like GPS, that is called precision agriculture. So let us first talk about food waste, right? So this is a huge problem in the world. And if we are able to reduce the food waste, I think we would be able to contribute to saving a lot of food, which can feed the population that is not fed across the world. So if you look at again, data from the food loss and waste webpage from the USDA, in the United States, over 1/3 of all the available food goes uneaten through loss or waste. When food is tossed aside, so too are the opportunities for improved food security, economic growth, and environmental prosperity. So when you throw the food, you basically are throwing a future into the dustbin. And if you look at this wonderful chart from World Bank, what you will see is that North America contributes to almost 61% of the food wastage. And this is #1 country in producing food waste, right? Of course, the government is trying to build a lot of programs in order to reduce the food wastage, but we as an individual have also to take some strict actions in order to reduce the food waste. So next time when you're eating, just take that amount of food that you think you'll be able to consume. And it's interesting because all the different continents are also contributing to a lot of food waste. And then if you just combine all of this data in a volumetric sense, you will see that almost 1 billion metric ton of food is wasted annually, and 56% of that wastage is coming from developed countries, and 44% is coming from the developing countries. So we as a world need to work together to decrease the food waste, and that can contribute to the food security. So that's the first thing. The second thing is the trait enhancement, right? So this trait enhancement is generally addressed utilizing biotechnological approaches, right? So for example, if you're an individual and if you go to a supermarket to buy mushrooms, for example, which of these 3 mushrooms you are most likely going to buy? My guess would be this lovely white looking mushroom. Now, the interesting thing is that when mushroom is kept in the market shelf for a long time, they develop browning, okay? And so scientists were able to develop a mushroom that will not show the browning pattern. So you see here, so this mushroom has been developed through trait enhancement approaches. And now this mushroom has more shelf life, meaning it can stay in the market for longer. So the probability of this mushroom going to the waste is very less, right? Another example is tomato. So for example, we collaborate with one of the world's leading tomato expert, James Giovanni, who is at Cornell University. So he works on tomato, and he works on producing tomatoes which have a lot of good properties. And he does that by doing trait enhancement. For example, his lab works on producing a lot of carotenoids, is a pigment, so that pigment that gives this nice red color to the tomato. So he works on enhancing those pigments so that when you consume tomatoes, you have a lot of nutrition going inside your gut, right? Now, here's the interesting thing. If you like to grow plants, and if you have ever grown tomato, you will see that the tomato that you grow in your garden, all these different fruits, they ripe at different time points, right? But the one that you buy in the supermarket, almost all of them look homogeneous. And that is possible because there has been a trait enhancement in those tomatoes. So again, trait enhancement is one key area that scientists should be working on. And they have been working on these areas for the last 30, 40 years, and they still continue to enhance the nutritional quality, the shelf life quality of different food products, okay? So that's another area that can help us to improve the food security, because if you can increase the shelf life of tomato, again, less amount of tomatoes would be wasted. And this is just like a representative example. Now, for example, look here. This is a company called Agribody that utilizes a lot of these trait enhanced products. And here you can see on the y-axis that you have a controlled tomato fruits here, and then you have the trait enhanced tomatoes here. And if you look at the number of days, if you have a normal tomato that is growing in your yard, after 21 days, you can see that the tomato is almost ready to be perished. And after 44 days, there is no picture here because the tomato was completely rotten. But if you have in a tomato in which the traits have been enhanced, you can see very clearly that even after 44 days, you have a shiny, bright tomato, and that you will be happy to consume. Now, it is important to understand that if you have a mass production of these kind of tomato, maybe you will have an increased loss of the tomatoes because the shelf life is going to be very, very low compared to the ones that is here. Another example is these banana, for example. How many of you think are going to buy this banana from the supermarket compared to this one? And this variety of this banana where you do not see any black patches even after 44 days, post-harvest, is because they have been trait manipulated such that the quantity and the quality could still be preserved in its native form. So it is very important to work on the trait enhancement, right? The third important thing that can also contribute to the food security are the orphan crops. So what are orphan crops? So orphan crops are defined as those crops which are minor in nature. And why I say minor? Because they are produced at a very small scale, okay? And so these crops are often regionally important. So maybe you can find that in Puerto Rico or in a specific area of Puerto Rico, but you will not find globally, for example, right? And so they are not traded around the world, even though they might have the capacity to generate revenues. And so therefore, they receive no attention by any research groups. Scientists are not very much interested in that because it is not a suitable business or economic crop. One of the orphan crops that I will be talking today about is coming from Puerto Rico, and that is apio. I'm sure some of you, if you're coming from the mountain region of Puerto Rico, you must know this crop. This crop grows in Barranquitas, Adjuntas, in Orocovis, all these mountain areas. And especially in Barranquitas, in the month of April, there is a full cultural festival dedicated to highlight the significance of this crop. So orphan crop is another area which is very, very important. And this is one of the slides that I showed you in the very beginning, if you remember. So all of these products that you see, they are primarily coming from these orphan crops. So the first orphan crop that has become very popular in the last 10 years is quinoa. I'm pretty sure now you have been eating quinoa over rice. But then quinoa was an orphan crop, and it was developed lately in the last 5-8 years as a commercial product. And now it has a huge market, right? We eat quinoa because it is rich in calcium and riboflavin. The second one that you see here, and we eat here quite a bit in Puerto Rico, but still not on a daily basis, which is chickpea, which is highly nutritious. It's a high amount of protein, right? Then if you're eating chicken with sesame seeds, these sesame seeds, they have an oxidative stable oil, which is very good for your health, like okra. And this is like a tuber from apio and banana, for example. Now, at least in Puerto Rico, I have seen this, that people love to eat any product stemming out from banana, right? And which is very good, but not many countries in the world are still consuming banana on a larger scale. And it is highly healthy and highly nutritious. So and this is just an example, if you include all of these 6 things in your normal diet, then perhaps you will not only be increasing the production of these items, but you will also be eating a suitable alternative to nutritious crop or nutritious plants, you know. I will give you one example to show you that how a crop that is more nutritious than a commercially important crop is not gaining significance. So here you see on the right-hand side here, this is a wheat. So you make bread from the wheat, right? So scientifically it is called triticum. And on the left-hand side here, what you're looking at is called a teff. So this is, again, wheat, something very similar to wheat, but that is grown most likely, more commonly in African continent, right? Now, if you look at the nutritional profile of the teff and you compare it with wheat, you will see that it has more nutrition compared to the wheat. So for example, if you look at the amount of calcium, so this triticum variety or the wheat variety is going to give you 22 milligram in 100 gram volume, you will get calcium. But if you look at teff, you're going to get almost 10 times more calcium if you eat teff, right? Similarly, if you look at other things like magnesium, for example, you're getting 130 milligram of magnesium from eating wheat, but you can get 184 milligram of magnesium if you eat teff, right? And if you look at some of the data coming out from Africa, what you will see is that this black bar that you see is representing teff, and this grayish scaly bar that you see is representing wheat. So here in the first graph, what you see on the y-axis is the number of farmers in millions that are growing teff compared to wheat. So certainly you see that there are more farmers, approximately 6.5 million farmers that are growing teff in Africa compared to wheat, right? If you look at the amount or the area of teff growth, it's almost 3 million, okay, hectares compared to wheat. But look at the research that is being done on teff. It's surprising that if you look at the kind of varieties that have been developed in the last couple of years, you will see that there has been not a significant change in the number of varieties that has been developed in 2012 compared to 2005 for teff. But you see that the number of varieties have been improved for wheat. So even if teff has a high nutritional value, you can still see that the researchers are not still paying attention to these kind of crops. And this is another classical example of an orphan crop from Africa. So if we focus our attention on these orphan crops, perhaps we will be able also to contribute to the food security. And in a couple of minutes, I will tell you how orphan crops have better have advantage or are advantageous over the normal crops that we are growing in 21st century. Last but not the least thing is the precision agriculture. So it's basically a technology-based agriculture. Now, a lot of us are not producing food because we do not find agriculture very fancy, right? So what if I tell you that you can do agriculture while you are sitting in your comfortable couch, and you can use a mobile phone, and that mobile phone can do a lot of agricultural practices for you in the field. So when the technology is integrated into doing agriculture, broadly that is called precision agriculture. So if you look at the definition of precision agriculture coming from the Missouri University, they say precision agriculture merges the new technologies born of the information age with a mature agricultural industry, okay? And it is an integrated crop management system, which basically takes inputs from the actual crops using different resources. So, and the primary resource that this precision agriculture concept uses is the global positioning system, GPS system, that I'm pretty sure most of you have been using on the phone. So the same technology can be applied in the field of agriculture. So very broadly speaking, and this is just a representative example, if you want to do agriculture, you basically integrate technology. And here you can see that you have a satellite, you have a base station, which is going to provide you the internet. And then we use what we call as unmanned aerial vehicles, commonly known as drones. So these drones can do a lot of work over your farm. They can put seeds into the farm. They can put fertilizers into your farm. They can give you a data about your farm. So let us say if you have a very huge farm, and then it is impossible for you to go on a daily basis to check how the things are growing in a farm. So you can use these drones, and then these drones can give you data, which can be then translated using several softwares, which can help you to predict the nature of and the need of your farmland. So for example, here, if you see, this is just a common representative example, again, to make you understand. So here are these huge farms, okay? And using this drone system, you can scan each and every single point in your agricultural plot. And then let us say, for example, all the deep green patches that you see in the plot may reflect to you that these are healthy patches. And then all these red patches that you see here may tell you that these are unhealthy patches, or maybe the soil at these red patches need some fertilizers, or may have another requirement. So these data have been taken using the NDVI system of the precision agriculture mechanism. But my idea here was to be simple and just tell you that this technique has the potential to basically save a lot of time, money, and energy. And this can give you like a very nice graphical representation of what exactly is happening in your agricultural farm. So here, for example, I was just mentioning to you that the UAVs or the drone system has a lot of application. It can help to sow the seed. And here I just want to demonstrate to you through a video how the drones have been utilized to applying pesticides and fertilizer. So here you see like a machine that is flying in the air, and soon you will see that it will start to disperse fertilizers on the trees, right? Or it might also have pesticides that can help you to treat your plants, right? So this technology is highly impactful because it not only saves time, but it also saves a lot of energy. And of course, it also saves you a lot of financial resources, right? So using these same kind of drones, you can also use them to plant seeds inside these crop land. So these are just two examples, right, of the way the precision agriculture is done. Okay. So we at Inter-American University of Puerto Rico in Barranquitas campus focus our research also on some aspects of food security. We do not produce enough food, so we do not really preach about the food waste, but we have a cafeteria and we ensure that the amount of the food waste that we generate is highly reduced. And we have been successful over the past few years. But our research primarily focuses on trait enhancement, so how we can make crop more stronger, more robust, more productive. We also work on orphan crops, and we are also now getting into precision agriculture. And all of this research we have been doing in collaboration with our industrial partner, that is Corteva Agriscience. I'm very grateful to Jaime Sanchez and Luis Colon, who over the past few years have been extremely supportive of all our endeavors in the field of agriculture. We also collaborate with Boyce Thompson Institute. I just showed you a photo a couple of slides back of James Giovannani, who was working on tomatoes. So we collaborate with him to do the trait enhancement. And I will just give you an example of one of the crops that we are collaborating with that is from Puerto Rico. We do a lot of precision ag collaboration with Corteva and Purdue University and North Dakota. For the orphan crops, we also work with Fort Valley State University. So we primarily work with different universities and industrial setting, and they have been very supportive so far. So now let me bring or draw your attention to one of the orphan crops that we work with in our lab. So that orphan crop is called apio. It's scientifically known as Aracacia xanthorrhiza, or sometimes people like to call that as a Peruvian carrot. So this is how it looks like when it is growing in a pot. And I'm sure some of you might have seen it in the farms of Barranquitas, Adjuntas, Orocovis, and so on. So when you look at the morphology of the plant produces flowers, okay, which is on the top part of the plant. Then it also produces a lot of leaves. So that is something also we are very much interested in, because the biomass of the leaf that is produced on these plants is enormous. So we are also looking at if these leaves have any medicinal properties, or if these leaves have any biofuel potential. We are very much interested in the medicinal properties, because this crop or this plant, it belongs to the family of carrot, and carrot have lots of medicinal properties. So then you have the leaves, then you have these tiny shoot-like branches that are called cormel. So the farmers usually break this and put it in the soil, and the new plant will come out. And then finally, we have these big storage roots that you consume, and you can find that in the supermarket. So this is a tuberous crop. So this is the primary item that is of commercial importance. This is a secondary food crop for over 100 million people in Latin America. So this is not only grown in Puerto Rico, but this is also grown in a lot of Latin American countries, okay? And why people are growing it? Because the tuber that you see here is very interesting. So of course, it has a lot of starch, but the starch itself is very exciting. For example, countries like Brazil, they prepare baby food from these roots. And that is possibly because the babies can digest these tubers more efficiently than digesting a potato, okay? So these starch-rich storage roots are the main product, but you also have these big leaves that can serve as a biomass, okay? And what is exciting is that this crop has very low input requirement, meaning you do not really need to do anything with this crop. Very minimal fertilizer, a little bit of the rain, and that is enough for this crop to grow, okay? It takes around 9 months to 11 months for the tuber to mature. But this is very exciting because this crop can grow under minimal nutritional conditions, okay? As compared to other crops like potato, wheat, which has enormous amount of requirement of water, fertilizer, for example. So if we try to bring out a market out of this, this will be more profitable to farmers in terms of the amount of the money that they have to invest in growing these kind of crops compared to wheat and rice and potatoes. So in our lab, we basically are interested in the tuber of the crop. One of the problems that farmers have with the tuber is that the tuber of apio has a very low shelf life, meaning if you leave the tuber for a week or two, then it starts to disintegrate. So then the farmer to sell this tuber really quick, okay? So we want to see if we can do the trait improvement by which we can increase the shelf life, and also if we can enhance some nutritional quality in the tuber. So that way the farmers will get more benefit and more economic returns. And for this aspect, we collaborate with the Cornell lab. And we are also understanding what makes the starch of this tuber so unique that Brazil has such a huge market of the tuber coming from the apio. And we are, as I was mentioning to you, we are also interested in doing the flavonoid or at least exploring the leaves for any potential that it might have in the field of medicine. So we are also looking at the flavonoid molecules, if any they are present. So we use a lot of approaches. We use a transcriptomic and genomics approaches. So these are basically DNA-based approaches. So DNA are these molecules that are found in your cell inside the nucleus. We also do a lot of microscopy. So we use imaging techniques. We also try to understand what kind of pathogens or the enemies these tubers might have. And then we also do tissue culture, a lot of tissue culture experiments. And the goal of all of this is to bring a sustainable and high quality plant that the farmers can grow into their field so that they can have a larger economic value of the investment that they do in their farms. So I'll just show you a quick a snapshot of some of the results that we have received or obtained in the last couple of months. So he says he's a PhD student in our campus, and he is working on understanding if the leaf might have some metabolites that can be used for medicinal purposes. So for the first step is to look for specialized structure that are present on the leaves. Those are called trichomes. So that you can see these are cellular structures. And many times these cellular structures, inside them, they have these pockets where they store these chemical compounds. So first we wanted to see if the apio leaf has some of these pockets or these cellular structure. So he says what he did was he just took the leaf samples from here, and then he observed it under a scanning electron microscope that we have. And here you can see that he was able to, like in the first picture here, at 500 magnification, he was able to see some cellular structure present on the leaf. And then when he further zoomed it to 2500x, he was able to really see very fine structures. And now he's exploring if these cells, they might have something inside them which can have a medicinal application. So he says he's also working on the starch molecule. So this is again the images that we got from the scanning electron microscope. So he isolated the starch molecules, and then he looked at under the microscope. So on the left-hand side, what you're looking at is the starch molecule that is coming from potatoes. And then on the right-hand side, you're looking at the starch molecule that is coming from apio. And both of them are the same scale. So you can see here, the magnification is at 2750x, and the same applies for this one as well. Now, what is interesting is that the starch molecules of apio is very small, very tiny, and they're granulated compared to the starch molecules of potato, which are very big and they're very smooth, And this tells us why children in Brazil are fed with the starch or the tuber product coming from apio, because these small size and the granulated shape of this apio starch will help in better digestibility. So for easy digestion, if we should be eating these kind of tubers, right? Okay, so we are also generating for the scientific community some genetic resources. So here is an example of a paper that we published sometime back in 16, where we basically sequenced the genome of the chloroplast of apio from Puerto Rico. And the idea behind sequencing this genome was to identify the genes that are participating in photosynthetic mechanism, so that we can then work on those genes to enhance the photosynthetic activity, increase the crop productivity or the tuber productivity. We are also generating RNA sequencing data. So for those of you who are not familiar with this, it's basically we're looking at all the genes that are present in flower, leaves, cornmeal, and storage roots, and then we are comparing them to find some key genes that can help us to understand the various functions of those genes. So this work is being done by Rosalinda, who is a lab technician in our lab. The last example I want to give you is about banana or plantain, whatever we like to call them. And you know that banana and plantain is very, very big in Puerto Rico. We eat a lot of good products, maduro, tostones. So there is a huge demand of banana fruits. After Hurricane Maria, there was a huge problem that the farmers were not able to get the seeds of those plantains or banana. Why? Because most of the seeds are imported from outside, right? So in 2018, we came up with the project under the supervision of Dr. Juan Negron, where he's leading the project. And the idea here is that why don't we cultivate, produce banana plantlets that we can give it to farmers? And what if those plants are free, very low pathogenic load? So what we basically do here is that we use a plant tissue culture approach. And I will just tell you that we use two different kind of plant tissue culture approach. So in this approach, what we basically do is you take a tissue, okay, from which you would like to generate plants. And then from here, you can isolate different kind of tissues, okay? So one of the tissues that we are interested in are the meristematic tissue that you see here. So they're located somewhere in between. So technically, you can get a lot of tissues from this one individual initial starting tissue, and then you can culture them in the laboratory to produce small plantlets using a lot of combinations of nutrient and other light conditions. So actually, you will be able to produce like this small plant that you see here into a test tube, and then you can put this plant into an acclimatization phase, so that they are adapted to the external environmental condition, and then they can be grown into the farm, so where they can be produced. Now, the problem with this tube system is that it can be labor intensive, and it can also be expensive, right? So we have in our lab have developed a protocol in which you can grow several plantlets rather in bioreactors, okay? So this is a technique by which you can grow several plantlets inside a closed system by providing nutrition. So I'll just show you how we do it. So this is like a typical plant bioreactor. So on the top here, you can see, so this is from our lab, and this technique was developed by our PhD student, Christoph. So he has been able to generate, you can see there are like so many plantlets inside this small tube. And the size of this bioreactor is not bigger than a big Coca-Cola can that you can find at McDonald's, for example. So it's relatively simple and small in nature. So here you can grow a lot of these plantlets, okay, and approximately 50 to 80 plantlets in one go. And then here you have the liquid media, So then this liquid media will rise up and will just touch the roots of these plants for a few seconds, and then it will settle down. So this way, you do not waste a lot of nutrition, okay? So here's a represented, here is a video showing how this happens. So you can see that the media is being sucked up and the media is going to go into the root system. And then after a few seconds, the media will come back to its original position. So it's like touch and go system. And this helps the plant to obtain all the nutrition that it requires for its proper growth. So here you can propagate a lot of plants in a shorter amount of time and at a low cost, okay? All right. So here's Christophe, who has been developing these protocols, and we have looked at the growth rate of these plants that are growing in bioreactors and compared it to the ones that are growing in the traditional tubes. And we have seen that the growth of these plantlets is almost more compared to the plantlets growing in the tube. So it seems bioreactor is very efficient in producing large quantity of these plantlets. And when you look at the morphology as well, you can see here on the top, these three plantlets that you see of banana, they are coming from bioreactors. And the ones that you see at the bottom, they are coming from traditional test tubes. So you can see that after like 2 to 3 weeks, there is more growth in the plantlets that are growing under the bioreactor systems. So this story was covered by El Novo Dia, and since then we have been producing a lot of plantlets, and the goal is to produce these plantlets into these bioreactors and then give it to the farmers so that they can have access to the local seeds with better quality traits, and then they can grow them in their farms. So far, we have impacted over 50 farmers, and we have given more than 5,000 plantains that were produced in vitro in those bioreactors. And if you look at the broader advantages of using this technique to grow these plantains, one advantage is that you will get healthier crops because these plantains are grown under lab conditions, so they are not impacted by any pathogen. And the second is the farmers do not need to waste 2 to 3 months just for these plantlets to grow and then see, oh, this plant has a disease and then I have to throw it. So we just give them we give the farmers good quality seeds that you can see all over here. And this helps the farmers to save time and they will have a better product, okay? So all of these snapshot of the research that I showed you, it takes place in Barranquitas. So I don't know how many of you are familiar with Barranquitas, but this is in the center of the island here. And we are trying to develop Barranquitas as a hub for agricultural research. We do all of these research at the Institute of Sustainable Biotechnology, which is a part of Barranquitas campus. And this is a pictorial representation of the campus. We are very sustainable in the sense that we collect, we have a lot of efforts aimed at sustainability. So for example, we generate close to 40% of the electricity needed to run this huge facility using solar panels. All the water that we use for our daily needs or other washing activities inside the labs, they are coming from the water that has been harvested from rain. So these are some of the examples just to tell you that how we try to be sustainable, right? And this institute was a brainchild of our current chancellor, Dr. Juan Negron, who had this vision to create a center in the island that can develop research around agriculture. And the primary goal of this institution is to provide education as well as research. In addition to that, we want to do all these activities using sustainable approaches, okay? So what we do is we create fundamental science, okay? And we want that this science can be translated to farmers, okay? And then the farmers could get benefit from it so that they can grow food and they can contribute to the sustainability of the community, and they can also contribute to the food crisis, okay? And they can help decrease the amount of the food problems that we have. So we do a lot of agriculture-related research in our campus. So we definitely have a lot of programs that we have developed over the last few years that are focused on agriculture or agricultural technology. So for example, we have a high school now in our campus, which is science and technology focused. So it's a STEM high school. And we provide a lot of training to these high schools through regular workshops and training programs. And Corteva has been always supportive of these kind of programs. We also have now an associate degree in agricultural technology, in addition to a bachelor's in biotechnology. If you want to learn more about precision agriculture, we now have an associate degree in precision agriculture. It's a 2-year degree, which can eventually be transformed into a 4-year bachelor's degree in either biotechnology or either in 4 years a bachelor's degree in precision agriculture. We also have a master's in agricultural biotechnology. It's a 2-year program. And then 2 years ago, we started a doctorate program in international biotechnology, which also has a very strong component of agriculture in the doctorate program. And the focus of all of these programs are learning to enhance your learning skills. So we really promote critical thinking. We also want our students to learn entrepreneurial skills, because you can get a degree, but if you cannot create a product and bring it to the market, then perhaps you need more educational skills. So through these programs, we try to provide that. There's a lot of university in the industry interaction, and perhaps Luis Colon from Corteva can tell you that we have been successfully managing over the last 5 years these interactions and collaboration with the industry. An overall goal of all of these activities that we do is to enhance agriculture and technology associated with agriculture. We have a fantastic master's program in agricultural biotechnology. So far, we have graduated 46 students, and all 46 students have a very good job in different sectors, okay? So why we want to create this huge center of agricultural research in the center of the island? And the answer lies in this graph. So this is a graph coming from, again, from USDA, which shows you that the USDA basically distributes Puerto Rico into different agricultural zones, and Barranquitas comes in this zone, region 6. So these 3 regions that you see here, Lares, Utuado, and Naranjito, they are those regions that produce the least amount of the agricultural products, okay? So why we are not producing enough? Once upon a time, this area, to the best of my knowledge, was an agriculture hub, and it is still now, but the intensity of agriculture has decreased. And why we are not doing it? Because perhaps there is a lack of awareness of the technologies that exist in agriculture, maybe lack of interest of people, and there could be several other factors. So we want to impact these regions through our agricultural innovative approaches. So we not only work on orphan crops, but we also work on commercial crops like cacao, for example, and grapes. And our goal is to keep enhancing our research in the areas of these orphan crops as well as these commercial crops. In a couple of slides ago, I was showing you that we have this huge facility, this program where we want to distribute plantains to the farmers. But the lab that we have is small. So now we have received funds, and Dr. Negron, who is the chancellor, is trying to build a center for food security and sustainable agriculture inside Barranquilla, which would serve as a commercial plant tissue culture facility so that we could produce almost 10,000 plantlets every month to distribute it to the farmers. Then we will also use this facility for teaching. It could be used for providing services for modern and sustainable agriculture. And then these kind of facilities will also provide employment opportunities and training facility for the farmers. So how we plan to do all of this agriculture related work, and I will wrap up in another 2 to 3 minutes, is by impacting students, by impacting the community, by impacting the farmers, and by impacting the faculty who is teaching these kind of courses. But one of the important components of how we can increase the amount of people to join the agriculture workforce is if we teach the teachers who are in the schools, in the high schools, for example, about the latest opportunities that exist in areas of agriculture. We have two projects that are funded by USDA. So the first project is from the AFRI PDL program, where this program is to train the teachers in the areas of agriculture biotechnology. And the second project is to enhance precision agriculture in Puerto Rico. So this is the only grant that I think is available or is awarded for precision agriculture work in Puerto Rico. So I'll briefly talk to you about these 2 projects, and then I will wrap up. So the first project is about teaching the teachers, right? So these are some of the details. So this is with six universities: Purdue, Stanford, Fort Valley, West Virginia, among others, University of Puerto Rico. And Corteva is an industrial partner for this project. And what we basically do through this project is that we recruit 30 teachers, school teachers at K-14 level, and they come for residential hands-on training, right? So we organized this workshop this year from June 20 to 25. And then we try to train them not only through lectures, but provide them 6 days of intensive lab experience. So they have projects, they work on those projects. And then eventually the idea is that once you are trained in those areas, then we are going to provide these teachers a lab kit that they can bring back to their schools so that they can do experiments in their schools, okay? And then eventually we want to create these teachers as agriculture ambassadors so that they can inform students as well as their colleagues what are the opportunities that exist in the area of agriculture technology. So this is like some of the pictures from this year project and that we did. These all are the teachers. You can see here they're participating in the lab activities. A lot of discussions going around of their bioinformatics skills, hydroponic skills that they developed. So if you're a teacher and you're interested in applying this program, please do consider. This year we're going to do it from 12 to 17 June in 2023. The applications will open on 1st of December. The other project that we have is basically to enhance precision agriculture in Puerto Rico. And then we are doing this in collaboration with Purdue University and Fort Valley, in collaboration with Corteva Agriscience. And we plan to impact these 3 areas, area of Aguadilla, the area of Barranquitas, and the area of Salinas, okay? And briefly, the whole idea of this project is to basically develop a academic program in precision agriculture. So we have already got the authorization. So we will be recruiting students for next semester. So if you would like to come for this associate degree, just collaborate or contact us, okay? We also organize a lot of activities throughout the year using these agricultural programs. So workshops, conferences, and we also go to school visits. So we have this mobile lab. And so we have this truck. In this truck, there's a lab inside it. So if you are a school teacher and if you would like us to come to your school, just let us know. And then we will bring an entire lab so that you can do lab activities in your school and tell the students about the opportunities that is present for them. So the whole concept is basically focused on science, right? And we are in university, so we do science, but the idea is to transfer that science that we do here to farmers so that farmers can contribute to the better sustainability in terms of the food crop production, which can eventually lead to a healthier community, okay? So our approach of all the experiments that we do is very robust, and we basically envision to increase the agricultural input, at least in the central region of Puerto Rico, in the coming decade. So we have this very nice logo, basically translates into the fact that we use the technology. You can see the DNA molecule here. So we use the technology at the grassroots level to enhance the production, to increase the quality of life for the farmers. And hopefully in 10 years or in the coming years, we will be able to see the impact. So these are some of the programs I already mentioned to you about that. So if you are interested in visiting our campus, please shoot me an email. We have a very nice laboratory facility. We have next generation sequencing platform. We have flow cytometer platforms. We have a lot of biochemical tools that can help us to characterize the molecules. We have a very high-end microscopy facility or imaging facility. We have a scanning electron microscope. We have a confocal microscope. We have an atomic force microscope. And we integrate all these technologies in order to answer our agricultural research questions. So with this, I would like to thank EcoExploratorio and Luis Colon from Corteva for inviting me to give a talk. There are a lot of people who have been always very, very helpful. Dr. Juan Negron Berrios, who is the chancellor, is very, very helpful in all our endeavors. And he was the fundamental man who basically created this whole concept of having a research facility in the center of the island. All of these work are done in collaboration with a lot of graduate, undergraduate, and lab technicians and administrative staff. We are also grateful to all our collaborators on this project, and of course, the funding agency, National Science Foundation, Department of Education, United States Department of Agriculture, last but not the least, Corteva Agriscience. And so thank you so much for having me on this platform, and I would be happy to answer any question you may have. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Alok. This is so that see all the research that we have here in Puerto Rico and around the world, and we can implement this for the students. Gracias, Dr. Alok. Todas estas investigaciones que está realizando para Puerto Rico y para todos, pueden realizar sus preguntas, ¿verdad?, a través del área de Question and Answer y el chat si se encuentra por Zoom. Y si se encuentra por área de Facebook Live, puede realizar sus preguntas a través de los comentarios. Así que les vamos a dejar unos minutos para hacer los comentarios. Es bien interesante, ¿verdad? Cómo es que entonces hay investigaciones utilizando los drones y utilizando la tecnología hoy en día para implementarla y cómo ellos nos están ayudando a estos procesos, ¿verdad?, de agricultura junto a la biotecnología, con compañías también como lo es Corteva Agriscience. Así que vamos a dar unos minutitos. Al momento no tenemos ninguna duda o pregunta. ¿Hay algún mensaje final que quiera indicarle, ¿verdad?, a los participantes tanto a través de Zoom como a través de Facebook Live? Doctor Alok. You have a special message for all the students and teachers that are connected here.
Yes, I think I would like to tell all of them that, Puerto Rico has a lot of potential, and people are hardworking and have a lot of energy. We just need to redirect our energy in the right direction, right? And let us make Puerto Rico a wonderful agricultural country. And that way we will contribute to the economy, and we will also reduce our dependency on the import of the agricultural food that we do right now.
Thank you so much. Thank you for all the participants here, the teacher, and the students, the public, general public. Thank you so much, Dr. Alok, for this presentation.
And if you have any other question, you can send me an email as well.
Yes.
Thank you.
If you have any question, thank you. A cualquiera que tenga alguna duda o pregunta, de igual manera se puede comunicar a través de lo que es webinars o al EcoExploratorio y podemos entonces enviarlos y comunicarlos con el doctor Alok Arum. Les recordamos que continuamos con una serie de webinars a través de la Semana de Ciencia Virtual, edición BioInnovation Week con Corteva Agriscience. Durante el día de mañana tendremos a las 11 de la mañana cultos semestrales de importancia económica en el mundo. ¿Por qué en Puerto Rico? Por el señor Juan Carlos Taguellini, Research Scientific de Corteva. Y a las 3 de la tarde tenemos la micropropagación de plantas de interés comercial por la profesora Rosa Berríos de la Universidad la Pontificia Universidad Católica de Puerto Rico. Así que los días de mañana están enfocados en los cultivos semestrales o cómo entonces podemos hacer la propagación de plantas para el comercio. Adicional a estas dos charlas que tendremos durante el día de mañana, vamos a tener charlas hasta el viernes a las 11 y a las 3. Recuerde que puede registrarse a través del enlace de Zoom y les llegará un recordatorio un día antes y una hora antes del webinar. De igual manera, nos puede sintonizar a través del Facebook Live. Todos los enlaces los puede conseguir a través de nuestra página web ecoexploratorio.org/ciencia virtual o a través de nuestras redes sociales como lo es Facebook. Cada webinar tiene un enlace separado para registro, así que les invitamos a que se registren en cada uno de los webinars de su interés y de igual manera los videos quedarán grabados en nuestra página de Facebook, así que los puede compartir si son maestros con sus estudiantes luego o si son del público general pueden verlos nuevamente a partir de unos minutos. Para los que preguntan a través de los certificados, una vez culmine la semana, durante la semana que viene estará recibiendo el certificado de participación. Todos serán enviados a través del correo electrónico que utilizó para registrarse. Les recuerdo que los certificados de participación solo son enviados a las personas que participan a través de Zoom, ya que se puede validar su presencia. Así que muchísimas gracias a todos por estar presentes durante la tarde de hoy. Los esperamos mañana con otra edición más del programa Ciencia Virtual del EcoExploratorio Museo de Ciencias de Puerto Rico. Buenas tardes.